All right, so this is part 2 of everything that's wrong with the National Retirement Risk Index. Retirement's at risk. Oh! So we're going to dive into this here. So let's go into this. We're going to show you Table 3, median replacement rates at age 65, i.e. they're saying in their concocted or convoluted, I should say, structure of how much income they have and how much income they're going to replace it with, how much income they have pre-retirement and how much income they're going to have in retirement to replace that income with. And if you look at early boomers, late boomers, and Generation Xers, and you can see it goes from 77 to 69 to 65%. Why is that? The replacement rates consistently decline over time for all income groups. This decline reflects the reduction in Social Security replacement rates. Because remember, like you saw in the first part of this tutorial, is that they have anyone taking Social Security from 2040 and beyond has a immediately 30% reduction in Social Security. Okay. So early boomers will be dead. Me, Generation Xers, will just be getting started in our retirement most likely. And we're going to have a 30% reduction right out the gate of Social Security. Just silly. All right, so here's a big one. Establishing replacement rate targets. To estimate the proportion of the population at risk requires comparing projected replacement rates with a benchmark rate. A commonly used benchmark is the replacement rate needed to allow households to maintain their pre-retirement standard of living in retirement. Again, they're concocting or convoluting pre-retirement standard of living with income that comes in. They're not correlated, man. Look, let me just give you an example. I have a house, I have a dog. I like to cook, grill steaks, all right? The house I'm in now costs me a hell of a lot more than the house I will be in the future. So I need a whole lot more income now to have my house, my dog, and my wife, and the grill food the grilled beef on the grill. All right. However, at retirement, my house will be significantly lower. My costs inherently will be significantly lower, but I'll still have a house, a dog, a wife, and grilled beef on the grill. My standard of living has stayed the same. The income that I derive in which to do the standard of living is irrelevant for retirement replacement rates because my standard of living, I still have a house, I still have a dog, I still have a wife, I'm still cooking, barbecuing on the grill. I'm still happy. But my income is completely irrelevant to my standard of living. People clearly need less than full pre-retirement income to maintain their standard once they stop working. One difference before and after retirement is the extent to which the income is taxed. When people are working, their earnings are subject to FICA and federal income tax and some state income tax here in the great state of Georgia. After retirement, they no longer pay Social Security taxes. They pay lower federal income taxes because only a portion of their Social Security is taxable. A second reason why, and I would even challenge that to some degree, but to some degree I agree, depends on married filing jointly versus single one up. But anyway, I agree with that. A second reason why retirees require less than their full pre-retirement income is they no longer need to save a portion for retirement. In addition to contributing to 401k plans, many households try also to pay off their mortgage before they retire. In retirement, these households no longer need to save and in fact draw on their accumulated reserves. Which will reduce their share of accumulated reserves. Thus, a greater share of their income is available for spending. A final factor often mentioned is that work-related expenses such as clothing and transportation are either no longer necessary or much reduced. Although this factor often tops many analysts' lists, is relatively small compared to taxes and savings. They're missing the cost of healthcare because once you go on Medicare, it goes significantly down for the vast majority of us, for sure. When I was at USAA, spending $800 a month on healthcare, and that's before copays, deductibles, the whole thing. And when I go on Medicare, it'll be $140 between me, $280 for Medicare Part B, another $80 for Medicare Part D, and we'll just say another $200, $250 for a supplement. So it's going to be lower for sure. And then because I had to supplement, my out-of-pocket, my deductibles and whatnot be significantly lower too, because I don't have 4 kids to take care of. While all analysis cite the same factors for why retirees need less than their full pre-retirement income, they employ different. This right here is just insane right here. They employ different approaches to calculating precisely how much less. Georgia State, right here in Georgia, has a retire project and it's been calculating required replacement rates. That is retirement income as a percent of pre-retirement earnings for decades. For an array of pre-retirement earnings level, they calculate federal, state, and local income taxes and Social Security taxes before and after retirements. They use the Bureau of Labor Statistics (CES) Consumer Expenditure Survey to estimate consumer savings and expenditures for different levels. As of 2004, when this was written, the project estimated that one earner couple with an income of $60,000 needs 75% of pre-retirement income to maintain the same level of consumption. That's just freaking nuts, dudes. That's just nuts. I've done videos exactly on that amount before. 60,000, you don't need 75%, because if you take 60,000, you times by 75%, that's $45,000. All right, that's just nuts, because what if anyway, I can't. I don't want to dive in that here, but just factoring taxes, FICA, and 401k contributions, never mind healthcare, never mind paying off a mortgage. It's nuts to say 75% of a one earner, $60,000 income needs 75%. It's just crazy. The comparable target for those earning $90,000 was 78%, and those earning $20,000 was 86%. Low-income couples require a higher replacement rate because they're saving very little before retirement and enjoy less in the way of tax savings. Yes, but they also have transfer payments, which never get shown into the income mix. They don't show welfare benefits. They just don't. And so if you're only making $20,000, I guarantee you're either on Medicaid, you have some kind of transfer payment, supplemental security income, AFDC, if they even still do WIC, Women, Infant, Children. The question becomes, what percent of pre-retirement lifetime income do households need in retirement to sustain their pre-retirement consumption? Exactly. To sustain their pre-retirement consumption. This is where the whole thing just goes off the rails. The pre-retirement consumption you need for old Josh with 4 kids, 1 in school, all kinds of sports, all kinds of this, all kinds of taxes, all the health costs. Oh my goodness, the big fat mortgage, the saving in my retirement plan, all that is going to change significantly, and yet I'm still going to maintain my pre-retirement consumption even though my income needs are going to drop significantly. Thus, the definition of an adequate level replacement will vary by type of household. For example, low-income households get most of their income from Social Security and therefore need to do little savings for retirement. The result is they get a little break from no longer having to save in retirement. Similarly, they pay low in taxes, so they receive little in the way of tax saving in retirement. And what do I got here? I say, okay, so here they're saying their target replacement rates. They're saying for the bottom third of income earners, they need 81%. Let's just look at all. So all retirement replacement rates are 73% is what they're saying. Your target replacement rate is 73% of your pre-retirement income. If you're in the bottom third, it's 81%. If you're in the middle third, it's 72%. If you're top third, it's 67%. Here, let me show you this other book. One sec. All right, so I'm going to beg you to read this book by Frederick, what's his name here? Vatese, The Essential Retirement Guide, A Contrarian's Perspective. He goes all into the replacement rates and just from the beginning of how that was founded, how nuts it is to say we need 75 or 80%. He's an actuary. So I'm a big fan of this book. Definitely get this book if you want. I got tons of notes in here. It's crazy. But if you want to take, a gander at the contrarian perspective other than your old buddy Josh, by all means do this, because it's a wonderful book. It's incredible, actually. All right. So let's keep going here. We already talked about the Georgia State. We talked about the average of household needs 73% replacement rate, which I don't believe it at all. So let's go into the National Retirement Risk Assessment, shall we? All right, so the National Retirement Risk Assessment. Those whose projected replacement rates fall more than 10% below the target. So again, if you fall below more than 10% below the 73% target for the average person, average household, are deemed to be at risk of having insufficient income to maintain their pre-retirement standard of living. For example, a household with a 70% target rate would be classified as at risk if its projected replacement rate fell below 63% of pre-retirement income. Generation Xers, where our average Generation Xer has a 49% are at risk, and this is back in 2004, now significantly higher. Why? Oh, because Social Security declines by 20%. 30% in 2040 in this study. It's even worse in future studies. So you can see early boomers don't have as much of risk. Late boomers have a little bit more. Generation Xers have more. And the reason is simply because Social Security, they're saying, is going to be declined by 30% come 2040. On top of that, they're annuitizing everything with an inflation index annuity, and you're doing a reverse mortgage on the entirety of your equity of your home. It's crazy. All right, and the results are based on optimistic assumptions that people work to age 65 and annuitize all their financial wealth, including receipts from a reverse mortgage on their home. Not just annuitize their wealth, but annuitize it with inflation-adjusted annuity. And no one does this, as I say here in my notes. It's not smart planning. No one does this. It's completely foreign. So why even use this in real life retirement planning when no one does it? It doesn't make any sense. As anticipated, the households who are most at risk are those in the bottom third of the income distribution. As noted previously, these households rely almost exclusively on Social Security benefits that are scheduled to decline sharply relative to pre-retirement income. Again, transfer payments are not included. For example, at-risk households in the lowest income group may have trouble affording life's basic necessities. They won't because they have transfer payments, food stamps, Medicaid, Section 8 housing, all this stuff. What else I got highlighted? All right. Having a pension of any sort is a key to secure retirement. Now, the interesting thing is here is they never explicitly define pension. In some things they talk as a pension, they include a defined benefit plan and defined contribution plan, all is one pension. In other areas they don't. They say defined benefit plan is exclusive from a defined contribution plan. I don't get it. So I'm not exactly sure what they're saying is a pension is secure for retirement. In fact, if you look at other studies that they do, the most recent one in 2018, they absolutely don't talk about the pen. They absolutely include the pension along with defined contribution plan as if it's one of the same. It's odd. So I'm not sure what they're doing there, what they're saying. I just don't know. Not very clear. All right, let's keep going. All right, so the clear message is that retirement risk has generally risen steadily over time. The most important reasons related to the changes in Social Security replacement rates. Man, see, this is what I think pisses me off about Bill Bernstein's guys. The most important reasons for the increase in retirement risk relate to changes in Social Security replacement rates, i.e. the 30% decline once you hit once you're in 2040 or now it's in 2034. It's crazy. They do make a point, valid, that it used to be normal retirement age at 65 and now it's at 67. So if you take a reduced benefit at 62, you're getting a bigger reduction in your benefit if you take it early than you used to. I completely agree with that, 100% right. But the big issue is the 30% decline in Social Security benefits after 2040, on top of the fact that the normal retirement age has increased to 67 or full retirement age from 65. All right, the baseline assumption for the index is that single individuals and the older member of a couple claim benefits at 65. So again, here we're reducing it by 30% on the baseline assumption anyway, because Social Security in 2040 is going to pay 30% less. And then on top of that, we're going to reduce it by another 16% because you're taking it before your full retirement age at 67. So if you take it before your full retirement age, you reduce it by 6% or 7% a year. I can't remember. Is it 7%? Well, let's say 15%. It doesn't matter. So we're going to reduce by 30% because 2040 beyond, the Social Security won't be able to pay the full benefit. And on top of that, we're going to reduce it by another 2 years, another 15% or something like that, because you're taking it 2 years before your full retirement age, which means you're going to have reduction significantly. So in this case, you're only getting about half of your Social Security benefit once you hit 2040. Crazy. All right, different standards for defining at-risk households. The base case scenario for determining whether a household is at risk is whether its projected replacement rates fall between 10% below the target needed to maintain its pre-retirement standard of living. And the index results are clearly sensitive to this definition, and that's what I say is the kicker. Completely contingent on what terminology we're using to determine risk. If I'm living off 100 now and later I'm only living off 30, but I have my house, I have my dog, I have my wife, and I've got barbecue to grill, beef to grill on the grill out there, is my retirement, am I at risk in retirement? No, I'm not. I just have less income, decidedly so, by choice, because I don't need to have as much income as I have now. For example, if the index uses a higher standard of eliminating estimated the 10% threshold and requiring all households to meet the target, I don't want to read that. A less favorable scenario. The index's base case scenario assumes that households retire at 65, thus reducing your Social Security benefit, again, on top of the automatically assumption they're using it for 2040 and beyond, annuitizing their financial assets with an index-inflated annuity, and tap their housing wealth through reverse mortgage. the notion that these assumptions will allow households to take full advantage of their potential retirement resources. In practice, most households do not retire before 65, do not annuitize, and do not access their housing wealth. If instead a household retired at 63 and did not annuitize and did not take a reverse mortgage, the share at risk would soar from 43% to 66%. I completely disagree with that. I don't agree with that at all. Anyway, so we got percentage of households at risk. And you can see they're saying percent of households at risk are about 50%. 50% of households at risk. It's I don't agree with that at all. So conclusion, I don't think I have any conclusion thing. All right. Do I have anything on the end notes? No. So let's keep going here because I want to go to the 2018 one that we'll see for actually let me go here. So this is the one in 2018. This is just oops, what happened? Right here. There we go. 2000. Well, I don't want that. I just want to go right there. All right. So update 2018. The National Retirement Risk Index shows a share of working age households who are at risk of being unable to maintain their pre-retirement standard of living. Since the last survey of consumer finances was conducted in 2013, the U.S. economy enjoyed a period of low unemployment, rising wages, strong stock market growth, and rising house prices. These factors should have improved households' preparedness for retirement. At the same time, longer-term trends such as gradual rise in Social Security full retirement age and low interest rates served as headwinds that made it more difficult to achieve retirement readiness. The question is, what is the net impact of these disparate factors? The second section updates the NRII using 2016 Survey of Consumer Finances numbers data and show that the share of households at risk dropped from 52% to 50% due solely to rising home values. All right, we already talked about how the NRI projects their numbers, but here they say we're looking at target rates of retirement replacement rates, but they don't say it in 2018 what it is. You got to go back to the original thing in 2004. Again, 73% I think is what it was, depending on the household, but basically between 65 and I think it was 81% retirement replacement rates. But they don't say it here, which is weird. Construction. We already talked about this, but construction, the NRRI conducts 3 steps: projecting replacement rate, retirement income as a share of pre-retirement income, constructing a target replacement rate that would allow each household to maintain its pre-retirement standard of living, comparing the two together to find who is at risk. And I said, again, to reemphasize, pre-retirement standing of living does not equate to pre-retirement income. Earnings prior to retirement are calculated by creating a wage index earnings history and averaging each individual's annual index wages over his lifetime. Once estimated, the components are added together to get a total projected retirement income at 65. Just you're using your retirement income to get an idea of what your retirement income will be. It just is crazy. To calculate projected replacement rates, we also need income prior to retirement. The items that comprise pre-retirement income, we're going to talk about that. Average lifetime income then serves as the denominator for each household replacement rate. We talked about that. Let's see here. We already talked about estimating target replacement rates, so that doesn't. We talked about that. And then we say calculating the index. The final step in creating the NRII is that households whose projected replacement rates fall more than 10% below the target are deemed to be at risk. And we talked about the inflate. We already talked about this. They buy an inflation-adjusted annuity. They reverse mortgage all their home assets. Their Social Security falls. In this case, it's going to fall in 2034 by that 30% or whatever. I think it was 30%. Yeah, that's nuts. All right, so let's keep going down here. The 3 main factors increasing the share at risk were the ongoing rise in Social Security full retirement age, the decline in interest rates, and new reverse mortgages that lowered the percentage of home equity that could be accessed at any given rate. It's actually not. I'm still stunned that they don't say anything about the reduction they're going to give you at Social Security at 2034. And again, if you're taking Social Security at 65, as they're anticipating, that's going to have a reduction as well as the reduction they're already throwing in there because of the 2034 that we're not going to have enough money to give 100% of the benefits. On top of that, never mind low interest, I get that. On top of that, they're not using any income for those working after the age of 65. It's freaking just is insane. On top of that, using an index annuity. Don't do that. The category also includes household, right here. All right, so here, percentage of households at risk by age 65 by pension coverage, 2013 and 16. Pension coverage, all 52% 68% of all who have no pension coverage are at risk in 2018 and 67 in 2016. Defined contribution only, 53% of all, or I will say 2016, 51% of all who have a defined contribution plan are at risk. With a defined benefit plan, all right, so right here, defined benefit plan, only 20% of people are at risk if they have a defined benefit plan. But what is a defined benefit plan? It includes households with both a defined benefit and a defined contribution plan, which is weird because of 2004, they said those with a pension are less at risk. But here they're saying those with a pension or defined benefit plan are those with both a defined contribution and a defined benefit plan. That doesn't make any sense. You got to do defined benefit, a pension, defined benefit, defined contribution, both, and none. It's weird to me. So they're saying all people at risk, 50% of the people are at risk, of which 20% are at risk if they have a defined benefit plan, and insinuating it's a pension. But it's not just a pension. It's a defined benefit pension plan and a defined contribution plan. They say and. Both. And then defined contribution, only 51% are risk. It's misleading. All right, right here. With both the stability and conservative assumptions of the NRRI suggest that retirement shortfalls are a major problem, the question is not fully settled yet among academic research. For example, studies by well-respected scholars conclude that most Americans are saving optimally to meet their consumption needs in retirement, with less than 10% of households falling short. The question is why this optimal approach yields such comforting results, and the answer hinges on two key assumptions: how children affect replacement rates and how households consume their accumulated wealth in retirement. What happens to household consumption once the children are grown and leave home? One hypothesis is that parents keep household consumption steady by spending more on themselves, particularly on discretionary items such as travel, entertainment, and restaurants. Under the optimal savings approach, though, the adults do not increase their spending when their children leave the nest. Instead, they simply save the extra cash. As a result, in addition to accumulating more retirement savings, they have a lower replacement target rate, which means they need to save less in households whose consumption remains steady. The NRRI has retirees buying an annuity that they spend a steady inflation-adjusted amount. It's nuts, don't do it. In contrast, the optimization models assumes that households draw down their wealth on their own. In the optimal framework, households choose higher consumption in their 60s and significantly lower in their 80s. That's exactly the way to do it. Households accept declining consumption in retirement because they're less willing to save during their working years to support consumption ages when they're less likely to be alive. With a declining consumption path, the typical household will need to accumulate much less wealth to meet any target replacement rates at retirement. The question then becomes, which set of assumptions is most plausible? Spending does decline as people age, but it's unclear as to the extent which the pattern reflects declining income. People cannot spend what they don't have. It's not really that unclear anymore. It's just not. I don't understand why they keep thrown in with this theory. It's just not. It's clear that people spend less as they age, not because they don't have it, because they don't want to do the same stuff. And here's what I find funny. And a growing body of research on how households behave when the kids leave home supports the notion of little change in the household's consumption and savings levels. One study that shows the household consumption of empty nesters does not decline and their per capita consumption increases, while another finds they save only a little bit more in their 401ks. One study. That's a growing body of research. Given the accumulating evidence, one study, the assumptions underlying the NRRI seem more plausible than that of the optimal savings approach. Of course it does, man, because the NRRI is competing for scarce dollars to get funding. Come on, man. You see this a mile away. This public choice theory in all its glory. Capture. The bottom line is that half of today's households will not have enough retirement income to maintain their pre-retirement standard of living, even if they work to 65 and annuitize all their financial assets. This clearly confirms that many of today's workers need to save more and work longer to achieve a secure retirement. Of course they do. The idea that once your children have the house, you're going to spend as much, if not more, is silly, man. The NRRI does not include income from work since labor force participation declines rapidly as people age. But it's income, so why not use it? Again, at 65, they're saying, once you hit 65, you're not working anymore. It's freaking nuts. And of course, a lot of people are still going to work from 65 to 70, and as they get older, still a good amount of the population is working. By purchasing an inflation-adjusted annuity, don't do that, which is why their income drops. And while inflation index annuities provide a smaller initial benefit than nominal annuities, they protect a household's purchasing power against erosive effect of inflations. And again, that's one of the reasons why their income drops, because they got to put so much more into the inflation-adjusted annuity to get the similar level of income. Don't do it, man. It appears, though, that the households they study cannot sustain their initial level consumption throughout the whole retirement period. And this is the optimal thing when the saying, hey, what they're saying, the NRRI guys are saying, well, but it appears they cannot sustain their initial level of compensation as they get older through retirement. Why would you want to? I mean, who's going to sustain it? I'm not gonna. I mean, you're 85 years old sitting on the front porch with a broom and a freaking fiddle, compared to when I'm 65, Sprite, ready to go. I mean, literally, what am I going to do? Go fishing? I'm not going to go fishing, but nuts. All right. I'm done with that. You just got to stop worrying. That's all there is to it. You got to stop worrying. And if smarty farty good time rock and rollers are out there saying this is evidence that we need more power for the government to regulate retirement, just now you know. No inflation adjusted annuities, no reverse mortgages across the board, no 65 years old, which inherently automatically reduces Social Security, no reduction in Social Security at 2034 because of the funding mechanism isn't there. What else they got? They don't have working after 65. They don't have any reduction in consumption. They have pre-retirement income, giving us the same gauge as post-retirement income, a 75% replacement rate. Just it's crazy. It's all that stuff and many, many more things. So I hope this helps you. Deep breath, my friends. It's going to be quite all right. All right, we'll see you.